Hey everybody, I'm the Bat Otter, and today I'm gonna review this one a little bit different. It's Berserk Volume 8. Last review I did the entirety of Volume 7 in 3 separate videos. Be sure to go check those out. But this one, I wasn't anticipating I'd like it that much because at the end of Volume 7, I was pretty happy with where I was at. I took a break from reading it. Like I said, I got a little bit burnt out on the series. There's such thing as too much of a good thing. And when I started reading this, and I opened it up to the first page of these kids walking around a forest, I thought, okay, is it going to be another one of some really slow paced character building? And I wasn't too excited. I will say that. I'll admit it right off the bat. But when I was greeted with a pair, not just a pair. Let's see. 3 sets of gorgeous double page spreads depicting a fantastical dark woods forest, right? The crows here, the dead trees, the trees in the background, the light shining through the clouds, just absolutely gorgeous artwork right off the cusp of this new volume. As we can see, Zodd flying through here after the events of the end of Conviction, of course. I immediately was invested in whatever story Miura was going to tell, if he was going to complement it with artwork like this. Because while in most of Miura's work, he uses the screen tones and gray tones to create much more varied textures in his work, and it's almost like a shortcut to get more things done without having to work as hard. He used absolutely no shortcuts when illustrating this forest. Every value, every piece of depth that you can see is done all through sheer line work and expert knowledge of how to separate values in such a dense illustrated piece as this, because you can see the outlines of the trees, the roots, the foreground, the midground, the background, how you can see the depth of the trees, how they're round, obviously, right? Trees are round. The shadows, all of those things. And I am just obsessed with these pages here because, again, it's always complemented by screen tones, and there's nothing wrong with complementing them with screen tones, but to do this, the sheer level of skill and excellence that you need to commit to a page like this it's next level on his next level artwork. So I really wanted to make sure I got across just how incredible these 2 pages are whenever you compare them to some of the other pieces, and we'll see some later where he utilizes screen tones as he typically does, and again why this is a cut above even those pages. So the story here is a very emotional one, and it, like I said, it right off the cusp, it throws you into a very emotional guts, reuniting with the 2 kids, Rickert and this girl here, after he comes back from Conviction. Obviously, Goto has died, which was kind of foreshadowed in the whenever he left Goto, that it would be his last time that he would meet him, and it's a very emotional reunion, but it's even more than that. Griffith has returned, obviously, as we saw in the last one. She tells Guts that Griffith is here, and after the shock of seeing him for the first time, he realizes that Griffith has returned. So immediately he sees Rickert talking to him in the Graveyard of Swords, and again we're greeted with yet another big splash page. I was going to say empty of dialogue, but with very minimal dialogue. That's another thing that Miura has brought back from kind of the earlier tellings of Berserk, where he doesn't litter the pages with dialogue, which is going to be completely contrasted with the later parts of this book, but we'll get there when we get there. And again, the way he etches the clouds, it's very similar to the wood etching style. And the fact that he's able to do this without the help of the screen tones really shows how much he's grown as an artist. The fact that he can get and extract all these values using just line work alone. Again, it speaks to the sheer excellence. Obviously, he used some on the cape to add some shadows, but I mean, compared to how much he uses them in other parts, it is much, much less. So Guts, obviously, he's running towards Griffith. He's ready for a fight. We see this. I mean, we all know Guts hates him. And again, we're greeted with another double-page spread. This book is chock full of incredible spreads, incredible pieces of artwork that stand alone as pieces of artwork. Of course, Guts goes absolutely haywire going towards Griffith. The rage is back. Rickard tries to stop him because poor Rickard, all he saw was the cyclone that engulfed them, and then Guts and Casca dropped in front of him naked and battered and beaten, only to help them. He didn't know what happened. He didn't know what happened with Griffith. None of that. And immediately, Guts has this terrible reaction. He says, "You always swing first, talk later. You haven't changed at all." He says, "That smile, you're the way that we were when we first met." And Guts is seething with rage. He says, "Don't talk about me with that same voice." He's like, "Why did you come here?" And it's this hate, because last time he saw Griffith, he was a demon. He was completely decrepit. He couldn't speak, he couldn't move. And now we see the same Griffith is old. And it's all this processing that Guts is feeling in these moments, of course, complemented by the panel work, of course, as usual. It is where you see Guts here at this angle, comes down here, the flow of the swords, the composition here to, again, drive all these different mechanics that I've mentioned so many times previously are right on full display at the beginning of this volume 8. Much more than I noticed in previous volumes. That could be because I'm out of the burnout, whatever. But reading these scenes are so much more emotional than some of the last scenes in it. And effectively here, Griffith tells him, "I came back here to see if my heart would waver at all, and I feel nothing." And Guts, realizing that Griffith feels absolutely nothing for all the terrible things that happened during the eclipse, he loses it, he charges forward, and he breaks the moment of rage where he looks sad, where almost like he wanted Griffith to feel something, and now learning that he's deeply hurt already on top of that because of how much he used to look up to him. And he says, "I'll not betray my dream, that's all." This very indifferent, accepting face that he gives Guts, and Guts, of course, loses it. And you think, okay, what's about to happen? Where's Zodd? Everything like that. And we get greeted with one of, if not the best fight scene in the entirety of Berserk so far, where he draws his sword, goes to slash at Griffith, and is immediately blocked by Zodd, to which we already know we're in for it. It's Zodd, it's Guts. Guts has already been through everything. He's not backing down this time, and he's not going to get pushed around like some chump. And the storytelling and the consistency within the fight, and the way that Miura is able to display how Guts has grown as a character and as a fighter, and honed all of those different skills, it's absolutely wild. I would show you panel by panel, but I'd probably get struck down by one of the manga companies for just doing a flip through of the book. But I'll be sure to get the best parts in as it goes. So he slashes, Guts does a backflip, immediately raises the sword as Zodd is charging him, and Zodd ducks those shots. I almost said Berserk. Guts avoids the shots. It's a lot of spinning. It's a lot of motion happening all at once. So many speed lines, and so much being avoided and being blocked and charged. All the while, we get the narration from both Guts, Zodd, and Rickard about what's happening. And what I love so much about these fight scenes is you'll see a lot of fight scenes in comic books and manga where it's like, okay, there's a slash here, and then there's this here, but they don't totally line up if you actually put the panels back to back. But you'll notice every single movement here is illustrated, from Guts being in this position here to turning around, going for a slash, avoiding it, where Zodd gets out of the way of the shot, counters, Guts counters that, and you get so many things, so many moving pieces happening all at the same time, until finally they break, they take the breather, and you get Rickard saying, I can't tell what's going on. And to be quite honest, sometimes my brain can't distinguish the lines, so even I can't tell what's going on at times. And Guts says, "Dude, just get out of my way. I just want to kill Griffith. It's nothing personal." And Zodd says, we're fighting here. We're fighting here tonight, boy. And again, shot after shot, and the narration from Guts, where he's much more calm whenever he's fighting him. He says, my head could be split in the blink of an eye. Every clash rattles my bones. These ain't just strikes you can ward off. It's the same as the other time, but this time I can fight. All the while you see the sparks going on in his eyes. He says, I've struggled through countless nights searching for him, and now all you are is in my way. And yet another splash page of them hacking and slashing at each other, going full force all the way, not pulling any of their punches. Like I said, the depth in the opening of this volume is so rich and full of emotion carried from the story previously. Him fighting Zodd already is a growth as a character. Him being able to stand toe-to-toe with the Dragon Slayer, making these split-second decisions where you get these smaller panels here, showing you the split-second decision. Zodd picks up another sword, goes to stab him. Guts kicks up the sword, gets Zodd, actually makes an impact, all the while barely scraping by while he gets a cut across his face. And like you said, if he blinks, his head is going to be split open. Each shot is enough to kill. And Rickert narrating, saying, Guts' split-second judgment using a sword buried in the snow like that. The instant he was driven back. Death. Guts has done unbelievably well braving death. The amount that it does for these characters and the amount of respect that it has for the continuity, everything leading up to this point. Even Zodd hulking out right here as he goes to attack Guts again. The scale of these fights, the amount of depth, like I keep saying, that are in these fights is so much so that I know that there's a page here where Guts gets thrown down a hill right here, and it's so massive that it quite literally barely fits on the page. And mind you, these are much larger pages, and even then, the pages can barely contain all of the craziness contained within the story. So I took up 10 minutes with just a handful of pages. Like I said, there's so much depth here. There's so much emotion that I felt whenever I was reading it. And I feel like giving these pages much more attention from page to page is really what it deserves for this part of the volume. Of course, he crashes in. Casca gets out and saved by Griffith whenever all the rubble falls. And Guts seeing Griffith that close to Casca and Casca breaking down because of the brand of sacrifice hurting her, it just drives Guts insane until finally the indifferent Griffith, who really doesn't care to kill Guts, he doesn't even care enough to kill him, flies off. He says, I told you once I will get my own kingdom. And you see this, really, like I said, there's a lot of contrast in Berserk. So you see the beautiful, the elegant looking Griffith here contrasted by the big monster, right? Until finally he flies off, saying nothing has changed to Guts. He says, you of all people should understand that. Guts trying to go for the final kill gets stopped by Rickert, and Rickert wants to know what happened between them. Again, we're greeted by another splash page of this landscape, showing just how much Miura himself has grown as an artist, being able to illustrate all these different ideas and aspects, until finally we get some instances of the little demon baby that Guts and Casca had still living inside of Griffith, where it causes him to make these strange judgments, just like he made those judgments back in the Golden Age arc trying to save Guts, which is very uncharacteristic of the common collected Griffith. And Rickert, hearing the truth, breaks down, saying that he'll go after Griffith too, and Guts saying, no, you could never really hate him, because you didn't go through that. Rickert is the one thing in the Band of the Hawk that was able to avoid all of that terrible, terrible ugliness that went down. But Rickert here, he has the responsibility to take care of Erica, right? So it really shows you how much these characters have grown, all the while complementing it with great artwork, deciding that they're going to go to Puck's home in order to stay safe from all of the demon attacks and everything like that. So Guts can continue to protect Casca, and they can continue on the journey of him trying to keep her safe and keep himself sane. And the story reminds you that what happened last, that everything led up to now. He says, Snow, that's right, the last time I left the Band of the Hawk, it was snow just like this. The day I quarreled with him was on a snowy hill just like this. This time, I'm the one who was deserted. And it, again, lots of emotional moments that really make you feel for these characters. And like I said, what I love so much about Berserk is how human the characters feel, how human they act, and how real the characters feel in the story. And Guts changed his goal. He says, this time I won't lose you, and that's pretty much what continues the story. There's much more to this volume, but like there was something about the way that was written and the way that was handled that really got me invested in these characters again in a way that you can't do with just cheesy one-off action scenes, right? You need to have the build up to these reunions because Guts hasn't seen him since he saw him with the God Hand. So to see these characters grow and change like real living, breathing people, it's a great story. So highly recommend it. Obviously, you need to read the entire series up until this point if you want to have any of the depth. But yeah, I hope you guys liked the video. It was much slower than usual. I wasn't just skipping over topics. We should have more of this book reviewed, of course, in the coming days. I have mixed feelings about it, but nothing can change that opener. So, like I said, hope you guys enjoy. Comment, tell me what you think of all this, of how you guys felt if you read it yourself. And yeah, like the video, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you in the next video.